Elena Rodriguez never imagined that the cruelest words her sister-in-law would ever speak about her being a worthless burden would be shattered in the most spectacular way during what was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday dinner when the family lawyer unexpectedly arrived with news about her late grandmother's $90 million inheritance, while Miranda Blackwood was in the middle of lecturing her about contributing nothing to the family legacy. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The autumn wind carried the scent of pine needles through the towering windows of the Blackwood Manor in Greenwich, Connecticut, as Elena adjusted the modest navy sweater she had purchased from a discount retailer 3 weeks earlier. The sweater, while clean and well-fitted, would undoubtedly draw another round of subtle remarks from Miranda Blackwood about appropriate attire for family gatherings at their ancestral estate that had housed 4 generations of pharmaceutical wealth and social prominence. Elena had learned to navigate these monthly family dinners with the same careful diplomacy she applied to managing her work as a pediatric nurse at Hartford Children's Hospital, requiring patience, observation, and strategic positioning to avoid the landmines of family politics that seemed to multiply with each passing month. The irony of this comparison was not lost on her, though she had never shared with anyone, including her husband Marcus, the full extent of the emotional toll these gatherings took on her mental health and sense of self-worth. Marcus Blackwood squeezed her hand as they approached the imposing colonial mansion that had witnessed nearly a century of pharmaceutical industry success and Connecticut high society tradition. The house itself was a testament to old-money pharmaceutical wealth, with its white limestone facade, grand columns, and windows that had overlooked manicured gardens, where some of the most influential business deals in medical history had been discussed over cigars and brandy. "Remember what we talked about?" Marcus whispered as they climbed the marble steps leading to the mahogany front entrance. "Miranda has been stressed about the quarterly board meetings for Blackwood Pharmaceuticals this month. Try not to take anything she says too personal." Elena nodded, though she wondered why Marcus never seemed to consider that his sister's stress about corporate responsibilities might not justify the consistent pattern of condescension and barely concealed contempt she had experienced since their engagement 4 years earlier. The board meetings Marcus referenced were for Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, a multinational pharmaceutical company that Miranda managed as chief executive officer, with the same imperial authority she applied to controlling every aspect of family dynamics and social interaction. The heavy oak door opened before they could ring the bell, revealing Thomas Hartwell, the family's longtime butler who had worked for the Blackwood family for over 25 years. Thomas's warm smile provided a stark contrast to the reception Elena knew awaited her inside the formal dining room where the family gathered for their traditional Sunday meals that served as both social obligation and business strategy session. "Good evening, Mr. Marcus and Miss Elena," Thomas said, his British accent still evident after decades in Connecticut. "Miss Miranda is in the library with your parents and your Uncle Benjamin. She asked that you join them for aperitifs before dinner." As they walked through the marble-floored foyer, Elena observed the family portraits that lined the hallway leading to the library. Generations of Blackwood men in business suits and laboratory coats gazed down from ornate frames, while their wives appeared in elegant gowns that spoke of privilege and social prominence spanning the entire 20th century. The pharmaceutical dynasty had been built on breakthrough medications and strategic business acquisitions that had made the Blackwood name synonymous with medical innovation and corporate success. The library buzzed with conversation between Marcus's father, Robert Blackwood, and his uncle Benjamin Blackwood, both successful executives whose partnership had built Blackwood Pharmaceuticals into one of the most profitable pharmaceutical companies in North America. The two men were discussing a complex merger deal involving a European biotechnology firm, their conversation peppered with medical terminology and financial figures that revealed the sophisticated nature of their international business operation. Miranda Blackwood stood near the stone fireplace wearing a black Chanel suit that Elena recognized from the current season's collection. Her platinum blonde hair was styled in the same sleek bob she had maintained for years, and her jewelry included the Blackwood family diamonds that had been featured in Vanity Fair magazine during a profile of America's most influential pharmaceutical families. At 35, Miranda had never married, dedicating her entire adult life to building her career and maintaining the family's business empire with ruthless efficiency and unwavering commitment to excellence. "Marcus, darling," Miranda said, crossing the room to embrace her younger brother while offering Elena a perfunctory nod that barely qualified as acknowledgement. I was just telling Father about the conversation I had with Catherine Morrison yesterday. Her daughter Jessica is doing groundbreaking research in oncology at Johns Hopkins, such an impressive young woman with real scientific credentials and published research. The subtext of Miranda's comment was clear to everyone present. Jessica Morrison represented the type of accomplished, well-educated woman that Miranda believed would have been more appropriate for her brother than Elena, whose background remained relatively modest compared to the Blackwood family's social circle and professional expectations. Robert Blackwood approached Elena with the genuine warmth that made her understand why Marcus had developed such a strong moral compass, despite his privileged upbringing. "Elena, you look lovely this evening. How are things at the hospital?" Marcus mentioned, "You've been working on some new patient care initiatives." Elena appreciated Robert's consistent efforts to include her in family conversations and show interest in her nursing career. Even though she suspected he shared some of Miranda's concerns about her background and ability to contribute meaningfully to the family's philanthropic and social obligations. Her work at Hartford Children's Hospital involved developing innovative care protocols for pediatric patients with chronic illnesses, though she had been careful not to reveal the full extent of her medical knowledge and the recognition she had received from medical professionals for her contributions to patient care improvement. The pediatric oncology program has been expanding significantly, Elena replied, accepting a glass of sparkling water from the silver tray that Thomas offered. "We've been implementing new comfort measures and family support systems that have improved patient outcomes and reduced treatment-related trauma for children and their families." Benjamin Blackwood looked up from his conversation with interest. "That sounds like meaningful work." Healthcare innovation requires dedicated professionals who understand both the medical and human aspects of treatment. "What specific improvements have you been able to implement?" Before Elena could respond, Miranda interjected with a laugh that carried undertones of skepticism. "I'm sure Elena's contributions are well-intentioned, though I wonder what qualifications she brings to developing medical protocols. Healthcare innovation requires rather specialized education and research experience, doesn't it?" The comment hung in the air with the precision of a carefully aimed criticism, designed to highlight Elena's apparent lack of advanced medical credentials while maintaining plausible deniability about any intentional slight. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, following his usual pattern of avoiding direct confrontation with his sister's passive-aggressive behavior. Elena had learned to respond to these moments with grace, rather than defensiveness, understanding that emotional reactions would only reinforce Miranda's perception of her as unsuitable for the Blackwood family's standards of intellectual rigor and professional achievement. "I focus primarily on evidence-based care improvements and family-centered approaches that complement the excellent medical treatment our physicians provide. Nothing revolutionary, but practical innovations that can make a significant difference in patient and family experiences during difficult times." "How thoughtful," Miranda replied, her tone suggesting that she found Elena's humility either genuine naivety or calculated modesty designed to hide her limitation. "Though I suppose when one has married into a family with substantial resources, the pressure for independent professional achievement becomes somewhat academic." The observation was delivered with Miranda's characteristic skill for embedding criticism within apparently innocent commentary. The implication was clear. Elena's interest in healthcare work was unnecessary given her access to Blackwood family resources through marriage, suggesting that her previous circumstances had been sufficiently modest to make Marcus's wealth a significant factor in her decision to marry him. Thomas appeared in the doorway to announce that dinner was ready, providing a welcome interruption to the tension that had begun building around Miranda's latest subtle attack on Elena's character and professional capability. The dining room had been set with the family's finest china and crystal, creating an atmosphere of formal elegance that matched the importance Miranda placed on maintaining traditional standards of social presentation. The conversation during the first course centered on Marcus's work as a research physician, specializing in pediatric cardiology and the breakthrough treatments he was developing for children with congenital heart defects. His passion for medical research had led him to specialize in innovative surgical techniques and treatment protocols that provided hope for families facing devastating diagnoses. The minimally invasive procedure we've been perfecting could reduce recovery time for children with complex heart defects by 60%. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Marcus explained, his enthusiasm evident as he described the intricate surgical innovations and collaborative research efforts involved in developing revolutionary pediatric cardiac. The potential impact on patient outcomes and family quality of life could be transformational for thousands of children who need these specialized treatments. Robert nodded approvingly, proud of his son's medical achievements even though he sometimes wished Marcus would consider transitioning from clinical practice to pharmaceutical research, where his talents could be applied to developing medications with broader commercial potential. Your mother and I have always supported your commitment to pediatric medicine, though I hope you're giving adequate consideration to the business opportunities in pharmaceutical development. The comment was directed at Marcus but clearly intended for Elena's benefit, reinforcing the family narrative about the importance of financial success and career advancement, while subtly questioning whether she truly understood the responsibilities that came with being part of a family with significant business interests and social obligations. As the conversation continued through the main course, Elena found herself observing the family dynamics with the same analytical approach she applied to understanding complex patient care situations and family medical crises. Miranda's behavior followed predictable patterns of asserting dominance through subtle criticism and implicit comparisons to other families in their social circle. Robert attempted to maintain harmony while supporting family business interests. Benjamin provided commentary that reinforced traditional expectations about professional achievement and social contribution. Marcus occupied an uncomfortable position between loyalty to his family and protection of his wife, often choosing silence over confrontation when his sister's comments crossed lines of basic respect and human decency. Elena understood the complexity of his situation but sometimes wondered whether his desire to maintain family peace came at the expense of addressing behavior that would not be tolerated in any other relationship. The turning point in the evening came during dessert when Miranda began sharing updates about recent social events and business activities within their extended circle of Connecticut pharmaceutical family. Her commentary included detailed descriptions of the professional accomplishments and social contributions of wives who met her standards for appropriate partnership choices within their industry and social community. Catherine Morrison mentioned that Jessica has been promoted to lead researcher for the National Cancer Institute's new immunotherapy program, Miranda said, her tone carrying unmistakable approval for Jessica's scientific achievement. Such impressive credentials for someone still in her 20s, her family must be tremendously proud of her contributions to cancer research and medical advancement. The contrast with Elena's situation was implicit but unmistakable. While Jessica Morrison was advancing cancer research through scientific expertise, Elena's primary accomplishment appeared to be marrying into a family with existing resources and social position. The comparison highlighted Miranda's belief that professional achievement and independent contribution to society were more valuable than supportive family roles or service-oriented career. Jessica sounds like a remarkable researcher, Elena replied diplomatically, refusing to take the bait for comparison or defensive explanation of her own background and career choices. It must be gratifying to contribute to cancer treatment development, knowing that your research could save countless lives and provide hope for families facing devastating diagnoses. Miranda smiled with satisfaction at what she interpreted as Elena's acknowledgement of Jessica's superior qualifications and more meaningful career contribution. There's something special about women who make independent contributions to society rather than depending on others for their identity and security. The comment crossed the line from subtle implication to direct accusation, suggesting that Elena's marriage to Marcus was motivated by financial and social benefits rather than genuine affection. and that her identity was entirely dependent on her connection to the Blackwood family rather than her own achievements and capability. Marcus finally reached his limit with his sister's behavior and prepared to respond, but Elena placed a gentle hand on his arm to indicate that she could handle the situation herself. I agree that meaningful contribution to society is important for personal fulfillment, Elena said calmly, maintaining eye contact with Miranda despite the obvious hostility in her sister-in-law's expression. Whether that contribution comes through research, patient care, education, or family support, what matters is making a positive difference in people's lives. Miranda nodded approvingly, apparently satisfied that she had successfully made her point about Elena's lack of independent achievement and meaningful contribution to society. I'm glad we understand each other, dear. Marcus has always been generous with his time and resources, and it's important that those around him appreciate his dedication without taking advantage of his kindness. The accusation was now explicit rather than implied. Miranda was directly stating her belief that Elena was taking advantage of Marcus's generosity and family resources, without providing equivalent value or contribution to their relationship or family welfare. The conversation had moved beyond passive-aggressive commentary into territory that demanded response, though Elena recognized that any defensive reaction would only reinforce Miranda's narrative about her character and motivations. Robert Blackwood looked uncomfortable with the direction the conversation had taken, while Benjamin studied his dessert plate with obvious discomfort at witnessing such direct family conflict. Marcus's face had flushed with anger at his sister's unprecedented directness in attacking his wife's character, and he opened his mouth to deliver what would clearly be a sharp rebuke to Miranda's behavior. At that precise moment, the doorbell rang with unusual insistence, creating an interruption that momentarily suspended the escalating family conflict. Thomas appeared in the dining room doorway with an expression of surprise that was unusual for his typically composed demeanor. "I apologize for the interruption," Thomas said, addressing Robert Blackwood with formal courtesy. "Mr. Harrison Fletcher is at the door. He says he has urgent legal business that cannot wait until tomorrow and must speak with the family immediately." Harrison Fletcher was the senior partner at Fletcher, Morrison & Associates, the law firm that had managed Blackwood family legal affairs for over 30 years. His unexpected appearance at their home during Sunday evening dinner suggested extraordinary circumstances that required immediate attention from family members. Robert exchanged glances with Benjamin, both men recognizing that Harrison's unscheduled visit indicated either urgent business complications or significant legal developments that could not be addressed through normal business channels. "Please show Mr. Fletcher to the library," Robert instructed Thomas. "We'll join him there immediately." As the family moved from the dining room to the library, Elena felt a strange mixture of relief at escaping Miranda's continued attack and anxiety about what legal emergency could have prompted their attorney to interrupt Sunday evening dinner. Marcus walked beside her, his anger at his sister's behavior still evident, though temporarily displaced by concern about potential family business complications. The library seemed smaller with the addition of Harrison Fletcher, whose tall frame and serious expression commanded immediate attention from everyone present. At 62, Harrison had guided the Blackwood family through numerous business transactions, estate planning decisions, and legal challenges that had shaped their pharmaceutical empire and personal wealth management strategy. "I apologize for intruding on your family dinner," Harrison began, his voice carrying the gravity that had made him one of Connecticut's most respected estate attorneys. "However, I've received documents today that require immediate discussion with all family members present." Harrison opened his leather briefcase and removed a thick envelope bearing the official seal of Pemberton, Davies & Associates, a prestigious New York law firm that specialized in complex estate administration and international wealth management. The envelope's formal appearance and overnight delivery timing suggested legal developments of significant importance. "This concerns the estate of Mrs. Esperanza Rodriguez," Harrison continued, his eyes finding Elena among the assembled family members. "Elena, I believe she was your grandmother." Elena felt her heart stop as she processed Harrison's words. Her grandmother Esperanza had passed away 6 months earlier in Madrid, Spain, where she had lived quietly for over 40 years. Elena had attended the funeral with Marcus, though the family had been told that her grandmother's modest estate would be settled through Spanish legal processes that did not require their involvement or attention. "Yes," Elena replied quietly, her voice barely audible as she tried to understand why her grandmother's estate would involve the Blackwood family attorney and require urgent Sunday evening discussion. "But we were told her estate was very small and would be handled entirely in Spain." Harrison's expression grew more serious as he opened the envelope and removed several legal documents that appeared to be translations of Spanish legal papers along with official correspondence from international banking institutions. "I'm afraid that information was incorrect, Elena. Your grandmother's estate is substantially more complex than anyone realized." The room fell silent as Harrison spread the documents across Robert's mahogany desk, organizing them with the precision that characterized his handling of significant legal matter. Elena could see official seals, bank letterheads, and legal terminology in both Spanish and English that suggested her grandmother's affairs were far more complicated than the simple estate settlement they had expected. Ms. Rodriguez owned controlling interests in 3 separate pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in Spain, Argentina, and Mexico, Harrison explained, his voice maintaining professional composure despite the extraordinary nature of the information he was revealing. She also maintained substantial investment portfolios with private banks in Switzerland and the Cayman Islands. Elena stared at Harrison in complete shock, unable to process the information he was presenting. Her grandmother had lived in a modest apartment in Madrid and had never mentioned any business interests or significant wealth during their regular phone conversations and occasional visits. The woman, Elena remembered, had been kind, humble, and seemingly of modest means, certainly nothing like the pharmaceutical industry magnate Harrison was describing. Miranda's expression had shifted from smug satisfaction to confused skepticism as she processed the implications of Harrison's revelation. If Elena's grandmother had owned pharmaceutical companies, the financial and social dynamics she had been assuming about Elena's background were fundamentally incorrect. "That's impossible," Miranda interjected, her voice carrying disbelief tinged with the first hints of anxiety about her previous assumptions. "Elena's family background is modest. Her grandmother lived in a small apartment and never mentioned any business interest." Harrison nodded understandingly. Mrs. Rodriguez was extraordinarily private about her business affairs, apparently for security and personal preference reasons. "According to the documentation I've received, she built her pharmaceutical empire through strategic acquisitions and innovative manufacturing processes, but chose to live quietly and avoid public attention." As Harrison continued explaining the details of Esperanza Rodriguez's hidden business empire, Elena began connecting pieces of information that had never made sense during her childhood and young adult years. Her grandmother's unexpected knowledge about pharmaceutical manufacturing, her mysterious phone calls in Spanish that always ended when Elena entered the room, and her insistence on paying for Elena's nursing school education despite claiming limited financial resources. "The estate valuation is still being finalized by international accounting firms," Harrison continued, "but preliminary assessments suggest total assets worth approximately $90 million. The number hit Elena like a physical blow, leaving her speechless and struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what Harrison was revealing. $90 million would transform her from a modest pediatric nurse into one of the wealthiest women in Connecticut, completely reversing every assumption the Blackwood family had made about her background and financial circumstance." Miranda's face had turned pale as she processed the implications of Harrison's announcement. The woman she had been criticizing for financial dependence and lack of contribution was apparently inheriting wealth that exceeded the entire Blackwood family's pharmaceutical fortune. The irony was so complete and devastating that Miranda seemed incapable of formulating any response. Marcus stared at his wife in amazement, realizing that she had maintained complete ignorance about her family's wealth not through deception but through genuine unawareness of her grandmother's extraordinary success in building a multinational pharmaceutical empire while maintaining the appearance of modest retirement in Madrid. "There's more," Harrison continued, seemingly oblivious to the family drama his revelations were creating. "Rodriguez's will includes specific instructions that her pharmaceutical companies be merged with established American pharmaceutical operations to ensure continued innovation and market leadership." Robert Blackwood leaned forward with sudden interest, Recognizing potential business implications that could benefit Blackwood Pharmaceuticals if Elena chose to pursue strategic partnerships rather than independent management of her inherited company. What type of pharmaceutical operations are we discussing? Harrison consulted his documents before responding. Generic medication manufacturing with specialized focus on pediatric formulations, advanced drug delivery systems for chronic disease management, and research facilities developing treatments for rare diseases affecting children. The description of Elena's inherited companies revealed a business empire that complemented Blackwood Pharmaceuticals' operations, while focusing specifically on pediatric medicine and rare disease research that aligned perfectly with both Elena's nursing expertise and Marcus's cardiology research interests. Elena listened to the continuing discussion of her grandmother's business empire with a mixture of grief for the woman she had apparently never truly known, and amazement at the revelation that her modest family background had been an illusion, maintained through her grandmother's preference for privacy and security over public recognition of her extraordinary achievements. The legal documents Harrison was reviewing included detailed descriptions of pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, and distribution networks that spanned 3 countries and employed thousands of people who had contributed to developing innovative treatments for pediatric diseases and rare medical conditions. Ms. Rodriguez specifically requested that Elena be given complete control over all business decisions, Harrison added, though she also included recommendations for experienced management teams who could assist with the transition if Elena chooses to maintain active ownership rather than selling the company. The revelation that Elena would have complete authority over a pharmaceutical empire worth $90 million created a stunning reversal of the family dynamics that had characterized every Blackwood family gathering for the past 4 years. The woman Miranda had been criticizing for lacking professional credentials and meaningful contribution, now controlled more pharmaceutical industry assets than anyone else in the room. Miranda's silence continued as she struggled to process the complete destruction of every assumption she had made about Elena's character, motivations, and qualifications for being part of their family. The accusations of financial dependence and social climbing had been revealed as not merely incorrect but ironically opposite to the actual financial circumstances. As Harrison concluded his presentation of the legal documents and estate administration requirements, Elena began to understand that her life had been transformed in ways that extended far beyond personal wealth to encompass responsibilities for thousands of employees, ongoing research program, and pharmaceutical manufacturing operations that provided essential medications for children with serious medical conditions. The inheritance represented not just financial security but a legacy of scientific innovation and medical contribution that aligned with Elena's own commitment to pediatric healthcare and family welfare. Her grandmother had apparently built a business empire dedicated to exactly the type of medical advancement that Elena pursued through her nursing career, creating an extraordinary convergence of professional interests and family heritage. The evening that had begun with Miranda's cruel accusations about Elena's worthlessness had concluded with the revelation that Elena controlled pharmaceutical resources that could advance pediatric medicine and rare disease research in ways that the Blackwood family had never imagined possible. The transformation was so complete and unexpected that it seemed almost surreal to everyone present. As the initial shock of Harrison's revelations began to settle, Elena realized that she would need to make fundamental decisions about her future that encompassed not only personal wealth management but also corporate leadership responsibilities and ongoing commitment to pharmaceutical innovation that could benefit countless children and families affected by serious medical conditions. The woman who had been called worthless now controlled resources and opportunities that could change the landscape of pediatric medicine, while creating new possibilities for collaboration and innovation within the pharmaceutical industry. The irony was perfect, devastating, and absolutely transformational for everyone involved in the evening's dramatic revelation. The silence that followed Harrison Fletcher's announcement stretched across the Blackwood Library like a thick fog, broken only by the subtle ticking of the antique grandfather clock that had witnessed countless family meetings over the decades. Elena stared at the legal documents spread across her father-in-law's mahogany desk, her mind struggling to process the magnitude of what she had just learned about her grandmother's secret pharmaceutical empire and the $90 million inheritance that would fundamentally transform every aspect of her existence. Miranda Blackwood remained frozen in her leather armchair, her usual commanding presence diminished by the complete collapse of every assumption she had held about Elena's background and worthiness to be part of their family. The woman who had spent 4 years systematically undermining Elena's confidence and questioning her motivations now faced the uncomfortable reality that her victim possessed more pharmaceutical industry wealth and influence than the entire Blackwood dynasty had accumulated over generations of business success. Harrison Fletcher organized the estate documents with methodical precision, seemingly unaware of the family drama his revelations had unleashed within the library's mahogany-paneled wall. His 30 years of experience handling complex estate matters had taught him to focus on legal requirements and administrative procedures rather than the emotional responses his announcements often generated among beneficiaries and their family. "Elena, there are several immediate decisions that require your attention," Harrison continued, consulting a detailed checklist that accompanied the estate documentation. "The pharmaceutical companies require executive oversight during the transition period, and there are time-sensitive research projects that depend on continued funding authorization." Elena nodded automatically, though her comprehension of Harrison's words felt distant and surreal. 6 hours earlier, she had been a pediatric nurse, whose greatest concern was surviving another family dinner without allowing Miranda's criticism to affect her emotional well-being. Now, she was apparently responsible for pharmaceutical manufacturing operations, research laboratories, and business decisions that could impact thousands of employees and patients who depended on her grandmother's companies for essential medications. Marcus reached across the space between their chairs to take Elena's hand, his touch providing a grounding anchor in the swirling confusion of legal terminology and business obligations that Harrison was describing. His medical training had taught him to remain calm during crisis situations, but the magnitude of Elena's inheritance and its implications for their marriage created complexity that exceeded anything his professional experience had prepared him to handle. "What kind of timeline are we discussing for these decisions?" Marcus asked, his physician's instinct for systematic problem-solving emerging as he attempted to understand the immediate pressures Elena would face in managing her unexpected inheritance. Harrison consulted his documents before responding. "The pharmaceutical companies have been operating under interim management since Mrs. Rodriguez's death 6 months ago, but several research programs require authorization for continued funding by the end of this month. Additionally, the merger recommendations in her will include specific deadlines for evaluating potential partnerships with established American pharmaceutical operations." Robert Blackwood had been listening to Harrison's presentation with the strategic focus that had built Blackwood Pharmaceuticals into a multinational pharmaceutical corporation. The business implications of Elena's inheritance created opportunities for industry collaboration that could benefit both organizations while advancing pharmaceutical research and development in ways that served broader medical and social purposes. "Harrison, could you provide more details about the specific pharmaceutical operations Elena has inherited?" Robert asked, his voice reflecting genuine curiosity about the business assets rather than any attempt to exploit the situation for personal advantage. "Understanding the scope and focus of these companies would help us provide appropriate guidance during the transition period." Harrison opened a separate folder containing detailed business profiles and financial statements that revealed the extraordinary scope of Esperanza Rodriguez's pharmaceutical empire. The documentation included manufacturing facility specifications, research laboratory capabilities, product development pipelines, and distribution networks that demonstrated sophisticated business operations spanning multiple countries and therapeutic areas. Rodriguez Pharmaceuticals in Madrid specializes in pediatric medication formulations with annual revenues of approximately $28 million, Harrison explained, reading from Comprehensive Business Summary. "The Argentina facility focuses on rare disease treatments with annual revenues of $15 million. While the Mexico operations handle advanced drug delivery systems generating $32 million annually. The financial figures represented substantial business operations that generated combined annual revenues of $75 million, while maintaining research and development programs that contributed to advancing pediatric medicine and rare disease treatment options. Elena's inheritance encompassed not merely wealth but active pharmaceutical companies that employed scientists, researchers, and manufacturing specialists dedicated to improving medical outcomes for vulnerable patient populations. Benjamin Blackwood leaned forward with obvious interest in the international scope of Elena's inherited company. His experience managing Blackwood Pharmaceuticals' global operations provided expertise that could prove valuable in helping Elena understand the complexity of international pharmaceutical business management and regulatory compliance requirements. International pharmaceutical operations involve complex regulatory frameworks and quality control standards, Benjamin observed, his tone reflecting professional respect for the business achievements Elena's grandmother had accomplished. Ms. Rodriguez must have possessed exceptional business acumen to build successful operations across multiple countries while maintaining the regulatory compliance necessary for pharmaceutical manufacture. Elena listened to the discussion of her grandmother's business achievements with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. The woman she remembered from childhood visits and telephone conversations had never mentioned pharmaceutical companies, international business operations, or the complex regulatory challenges that Benjamin was describing. Yet the legal documents Harrison was presenting provided irrefutable evidence of Esperanza Rodriguez's extraordinary success in building a multinational pharmaceutical empire while maintaining complete privacy about her business activity. The revelation prompted Elena to reconsider numerous childhood memories that had seemed puzzling at the time but now made perfect sense within the context of her grandmother's hidden pharmaceutical career. Esperanza's sophisticated knowledge of medication development, her mysterious business telephone calls, and her insistence on funding Elena's nursing education despite claiming modest financial resources all reflected the careful discretion of a successful pharmaceutical executive who had chosen privacy over public recognition. There's another aspect of the inheritance that requires discussion, Harrison continued, removing additional documents from his briefcase. Ms. Rodriguez established a charitable foundation dedicated to funding pediatric medical research, particularly focusing on rare diseases that affect children in underserved communities. The charitable foundation represented another layer of complexity in Elena's inheritance, extending her responsibilities beyond business management to include philanthropic decision-making that could impact medical research funding and patient care programs for vulnerable populations. The foundation's mission aligned perfectly with Elena's professional commitment to pediatric nursing and her personal values regarding healthcare access and social responsibility. Harrison handed Elena a bound report detailing the foundation's current assets, grant-making activities, and ongoing research partnerships with medical institutions across 3 continents. The document revealed that the Rodriguez Foundation had provided over $12 million in research funding during the previous 5 years, supporting breakthrough studies in pediatric oncology, rare genetic disorders, and innovative treatment approaches for children with complex medical conditions. The foundation currently manages assets worth $18 million and provides annual grants totaling approximately $3.5 million to pediatric medical research programs. Harrison explained. Mrs. Rodriguez specified that you would have complete authority over grant allocation decisions and strategic direction for future funding priorities. Elena stared at the foundation documentation with growing amazement at her grandmother's comprehensive commitment to advancing pediatric medicine through both pharmaceutical development and research funding. The combination of business operations and charitable activities represented an integrated approach to improving children's health outcomes that extended far beyond profit generation to encompass genuine social impact and medical advancement. Miranda had remained silent throughout Harrison's presentation, but Elena could observe her sister-in-law's struggle to process the complete reversal of every assumption she had maintained about Elena's background, qualifications, and worthiness to be part of the Blackwood family. The accusations of financial dependence and lack of meaningful contribution had been revealed as not merely incorrect but ironically opposite to Elena's actual circumstances and capability. The psychological impact of discovering that her target for 4 years of systematic criticism actually controlled more pharmaceutical resources than the entire Blackwood Blackwood family created cognitive dissonance that challenged Miranda's fundamental beliefs about social hierarchy, professional achievement, and family dynamics. The woman she had considered worthless now possessed the financial means and business influence to transform pediatric medicine while advancing research programs that could benefit countless children and families. Elena, I need to discuss the tax implications and estate administration timeline, Harrison continued, apparently focused on completing the legal presentation despite the obvious family tension his revelations had created. There are federal and international tax considerations that require immediate attention, as well as corporate governance decisions that cannot be delayed without affecting business operations. Elena nodded, though she felt overwhelmed by the complexity of legal and business responsibilities that Harrison was describing. Her nursing education had provided excellent preparation for patient care and medical decision-making but had not included coursework in international business management, pharmaceutical industry regulations, or charitable foundation administration. Marcus recognized Elena's need for time to process the information and develop a systematic approach to managing her inheritance responsibilities. Harrison, could we schedule follow-up meetings to address these administrative requirements? Elena needs time to understand the full scope of her inheritance before making major decisions about business operations and foundation activities. Of course, Harrison replied, consulting his calendar. However, there are several urgent matters that require authorization within the next 2 weeks. I can prepare summary documents that prioritize the most time-sensitive decisions while providing Elena with detailed background information about each business operation and foundation program. Robert Blackwood cleared his throat, indicating his desire to address the broader implications of Elena's inheritance for family relationships and potential business collaboration. His decades of experience in pharmaceutical industry leadership had taught him to recognize opportunities for strategic partnerships that could benefit all parties while advancing medical research and patient care objectives. Elena, if you're interested in exploring potential collaboration between your inherited companies and Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, we would be honored to discuss partnership opportunities that could leverage our combined resources and expertise, Robert said, his tone reflecting genuine respect for Elena's new position within the pharmaceutical industry. Your company's focus on pediatric medicine and rare diseases could complement our research programs in ways that advance both organizations' missions. The offer represented a dramatic transformation in Robert's perception of Elena's value to the family and her potential contribution to advancing pharmaceutical research and business success. 6 hours earlier, she had been viewed as Marcus's wife whose nursing career provided modest social contribution. Now she was being courted as a pharmaceutical industry partner whose resources and expertise could enhance Blackwood Pharmaceuticals' competitive position and research capability. Elena appreciated Robert's respectful approach to discussing potential business collaboration, recognizing that his offer reflected genuine interest in advancing pediatric medicine rather than any attempt to exploit her inheritance for personal gain. The possibility of combining resources between her grandmother's companies and Blackwood Pharmaceuticals could create synergies that advanced research programs while honoring Esperanza Rodriguez's commitment to improving children's health outcomes. Thank you for that offer, Elena replied, her voice gaining strength as she began to process the opportunities her inheritance created for advancing pediatric medicine and rare disease research. I think my grandmother would have appreciated the possibility of collaboration that could accelerate research and improve treatment options for children with serious medical conditions. The conversation about potential business partnerships helped Elena begin to envision how she might approach her inheritance responsibilities in ways that honored her grandmother's legacy while building upon her own professional experience and personal value. The combination of pharmaceutical manufacturing, research funding, and collaborative partnerships could create comprehensive programs that addressed pediatric healthcare needs from multiple perspectives. Benjamin Blackwood had been observing Elena's responses to Harrison's presentation with growing respect for her composure and thoughtful consideration of complex business and philanthropic responsibility. Her nursing background provided valuable perspective on patient care priorities and medical needs that could inform business decisions and research funding allocation in ways that enhanced both commercial success and social impact. Elena, your clinical experience with pediatric patients could provide invaluable guidance for research priority decisions and product development strategies. Benjamin observed, the combination of medical knowledge and business resources creates opportunities for innovation that purely financial investors often miss. The recognition that her nursing expertise represented valuable professional qualifications rather than modest career achievement marked another transformation in how Blackwood family members perceived Elena's capabilities and potential contribution. Her clinical experience with pediatric patients provided specialized knowledge that could inform business decisions and research directions in ways that enhanced both medical outcomes and commercial effectiveness. As the evening progressed and Harrison concluded his presentation of estate documentation and administrative requirements, Elena began to understand that her inheritance represented both extraordinary opportunity and significant responsibility for advancing pediatric medicine and supporting vulnerable patient populations. The pharmaceutical companies, research foundation and business partnerships that now fell under her authority could impact thousands of children and families who depended on innovative treatments and accessible healthcare options. The transformation from pediatric nurse to pharmaceutical industry leader created challenges that would require developing new skills and knowledge areas, while building upon her existing medical expertise and patient care experience. Elena recognized that successfully managing her inheritance would demand the same dedication and systematic approach that had made her an effective nurse, though applied to business operations and philanthropic activities that operated on a much larger scale. Miranda finally broke her extended silence as Harrison packed his legal documents and prepared to leave the Blackwood Library. Her voice carried a subdued quality that reflected the psychological impact of discovering that every assumption she had maintained about Elena's background and qualifications had been completely incorrect. "I apologize for the comments I made earlier this evening," Miranda said, though her tone suggested difficulty in fully accepting the reversal of family dynamics that Elena's inheritance had created. "I clearly misunderstood your background and the circumstances of your relationship with Marcus." The apology represented a significant departure from Miranda's usual commanding confidence and systematic criticism of Elena's perceived inadequacy. The revelation that Elena controlled pharmaceutical resources worth $90 million had forced Miranda to reconsider not only her treatment of her sister-in-law, but also her fundamental beliefs about professional achievement, family hierarchy, and social status within their industry and community. Elena accepted Miranda's apology with grace, recognizing that her sister-in-law was struggling to process information that challenged basic assumptions about identity, worth, and family relationships. The evening's revelations had created opportunities for rebuilding their relationship on a foundation of mutual respect rather than the hierarchical dynamics that had characterized their previous interaction. "Thank you for saying that," Elena replied, her tone reflecting genuine appreciation for Miranda's acknowledgement, while avoiding any suggestion of triumph or vindication. "I understand that tonight's information was unexpected for everyone. I'm still trying to process it myself." As Harrison departed and the Blackwood family began to disperse from the library, Elena realized that her life had been fundamentally transformed in ways that extended far beyond personal wealth to encompass professional responsibilities, family relationships, and opportunities for contributing to medical advancement and social welfare. The pharmaceutical companies and research foundation she had inherited represented her grandmother's life work and commitment to improving children's health outcomes through innovative treatments and comprehensive care approaches. The challenge of honoring Esperanza Rodriguez's legacy, building upon Elena's own nursing expertise and personal values, would require developing new capabilities and knowledge areas, while maintaining the compassion and dedication to patient welfare that had motivated her career in pediatric nursing. The intersection of business success and medical advancement created possibilities for innovation that could transform both pharmaceutical industry practices and patient care outcomes. Marcus walked beside Elena as they left the Blackwood estate that evening, both of them processing the magnitude of change that Harrison's revelations had introduced into their marriage and family relationship. The woman Marcus had married for her intelligence, compassion, and commitment to pediatric nursing had been revealed as heir to a pharmaceutical empire that could advance the medical research and patient care objectives they both valued. The drive home provided Elena with time to reflect on the extraordinary events of the evening and begin developing approaches for managing her inheritance responsibilities, while maintaining the values and relationships that had shaped her personal and professional identity. The pharmaceutical companies, research foundation, and business opportunities now under her authority represented tools for advancing pediatric medicine and supporting vulnerable patient populations in ways that aligned with her nursing career and personal commitments. As they reached their modest apartment in Hartford, Elena understood that she would need to make fundamental decisions about her future that encompassed not only personal wealth management, but also corporate leadership responsibilities and ongoing commitment to pharmaceutical innovation that could benefit countless children and families affected by serious medical conditions. The inheritance represented both extraordinary opportunity and significant obligation for stewardship of resources that could transform pediatric healthcare, while honoring her grandmother's remarkable legacy of business success and social contribution. The evening had begun with Miranda's cruel accusations about Elena's worthlessness, and ended with the revelation that Elena controlled pharmaceutical resources that exceeded the entire Blackwood family's business empire. The transformation was so complete and unexpected that it seemed almost surreal, yet the legal documents and business realities that Harrison had presented provided irrefutable evidence of Elena's new position within the pharmaceutical industry and her responsibilities for advancing medical research and patient care programs that could impact thousands of vulnerable children and families worldwide. 3 weeks after Harrison Fletcher's life-changing revelation, Elena Rodriguez Blackwood stood in the executive conference room of Rodriguez Pharmaceuticals' Madrid headquarters, overlooking the bustling Spanish capital through floor-to-ceiling windows that her grandmother had gazed through while building her pharmaceutical empire over 4 decades of dedicated work and strategic vision. The modern facility bore no resemblance to the modest apartment where Esperanza Rodriguez had lived during Elena's childhood visit, yet every detail of the corporate headquarters reflected the same attention to quality and patient care that had characterized her grandmother's approach to both business and personal relationships. The transformation from pediatric nurse to pharmaceutical executive had required Elena to immerse herself in intensive learning about international business operations, regulatory compliance frameworks, and corporate governance structures that governed multinational pharmaceutical companies. Her nursing background provided invaluable perspective on patient needs and medical priorities, but managing pharmaceutical manufacturing operations demanded expertise in areas ranging from quality control protocols to intellectual property protection that had never been part of her medical education or clinical experience. Dr. Carmen Mendoza, the chief scientific officer who had worked alongside Esperanza Rodriguez for over 15 years, had become Elena's primary mentor in understanding the complex research and development programs that formed the foundation of her inherited company's success and competitive advantage within the global pharmaceutical marketplace. Carmen's expertise in pediatric medication formulation and rare disease research provided continuity between Esperanza's strategic vision and Elena's emerging leadership approach that emphasized both commercial viability and meaningful medical advancement. Your grandmother always insisted that our research priorities should be guided by patient needs rather than market-size projections, Carmen explained during one of their daily strategy sessions that had become essential for Elena's education in pharmaceutical industry dynamics and decision-making framework. She believed that breakthrough treatments for rare pediatric diseases could generate both significant medical impact and sustainable commercial returns if developed with appropriate scientific rigor and regulatory strategy. Elena appreciated Carmen's insights into her grandmother's business philosophy and strategic approach to pharmaceutical development, recognizing that Esperanza Rodriguez had successfully balanced profit generation with social responsibility in ways that created lasting value for patient employees and shareholders, while building a corporate culture dedicated to medical advancement and ethical business practices. This integrated approach to pharmaceutical leadership provided a model for Elena's own emerging vision of how to manage her inherited companies, while honoring her grandmother's legacy and advancing her own commitment to pediatric healthcare. The research laboratories that Elena toured during her orientation process revealed the sophisticated scientific capabilities that Esperanza Rodriguez had assembled through strategic investments in equipment, person in collaborative partnerships with leading medical institutions across 3 continents. The facilities housed advanced drug development programs targeting pediatric cancers, rare genetic disorders, and innovative treatment delivery systems that could improve medication effectiveness while reducing side effects for young patients with complex medical needs. One particularly promising research program focused on developing targeted therapies for pediatric brain tumors, leveraging breakthrough discoveries in molecular medicine and personalized treatment approaches that could transform outcomes for children facing devastating diagnoses. The research team included specialists in pediatric oncology, molecular biology, and pharmaceutical chemistry, who had dedicated their careers to advancing treatment options for the most challenging medical conditions affecting children and adolescents. This program represents exactly the type of innovation your grandmother envisioned when she established our research priorities, Carmen noted as they observed laboratory technicians conducting advanced drug formulation experiments. The potential impact on patient survival rates and quality of life could be transformational for families dealing with pediatric brain cancer diagnoses. Elena watched the meticulous scientific work with deep appreciation for the dedication and expertise that her grandmother had assembled to pursue breakthrough treatments for conditions that affected relatively small patient populations, but generated devastating consequences for children and families who lacked effective therapeutic options. The commitment to serving vulnerable populations regardless of market size considerations reflected values that aligned perfectly with Elena's nursing experience and personal convictions about healthcare accessibility and social responsibility. The international scope of Elena's inherited pharmaceutical operations required her to develop understanding of regulatory frameworks, cultural considerations, and business practices that varied significantly across the Spanish, Argentine, and Mexican markets where her companies maintained manufacturing facilities and distribution networks. Each operation faced unique challenges related to local regulations, supplier relationships, and market dynamics that demanded specialized knowledge and cultural sensitivity. The Argentina facility specialized in rare disease treatments that served patient populations across South America, requiring coordination with healthcare systems and regulatory agencies that operated under different frameworks than Elena had encountered in her American nursing experience. The complexity of international pharmaceutical distribution and regulatory compliance highlighted the sophisticated business acumen that her grandmother had developed through decades of successful operations across multiple countries and healthcare systems. Elena's visit to the Mexico operations revealed advanced drug delivery technologies that could revolutionize how medications were administered to pediatric patients, potentially reducing treatment burden and improving compliance rates for children with chronic conditions requiring long-term medication management. The innovations being developed at the facility included extended-release formulations, needle-free injection systems, and flavored preparations that addressed specific challenges associated with pediatric medication administration. These delivery system innovations could transform treatment experiences for children with diabetes, epilepsy, and other conditions requiring daily medication management, explained Dr. Miguel Santos, the facility's director of pharmaceutical technology development. Your grandmother understood that breakthrough treatments were meaningless if children couldn't or wouldn't take their medications consistently. The insight into her grandmother's comprehensive approach to pediatric healthcare resonated deeply with Elena's nursing experience, where medication compliance challenges often created barriers to optimal treatment outcomes for young patients and their families. The integration of pharmaceutical development with practical considerations about patient demonstrated the sophisticated understanding of healthcare delivery that had guided Esperanza Rodriguez's business strategy and product development priority. As Elena gained deeper understanding of her inherited company's operations and strategic positioning within the global pharmaceutical industry, she began developing her own vision for advancing pediatric medicine through enhanced research collaboration, innovative product development, and strategic partnerships that could accelerate breakthrough treatments while maintaining the patient-centered approach that had characterized her grandmother's leadership philosophy. The Rodriguez Foundation's grant-making activities provided another avenue for advancing pediatric medical research through partnerships with leading academic medical centers and research institutions worldwide. Elena's review of current foundation projects revealed funding for groundbreaking studies in pediatric immunotherapy, genetic medicine, and regenerative treatments that could transform outcomes for children with previously incurable conditions. One foundation-funded research program at Johns Hopkins University was developing personalized medicine approaches for pediatric leukemia that could improve cure rates while reducing long-term treatment complications that affected survivors' quality of life and developmental outcomes. The research represented exactly the type of innovative medical advancement that Elena valued, both as a nurse and as the heir to her grandmother's legacy of commitment to improving children's health outcomes. The Foundation's research portfolio reflects your grandmother's belief that breakthrough medical discoveries often emerge from collaborative efforts between pharmaceutical companies and academic research. Patricia Williams, the Foundation's program director who had worked closely with Esperanza Rodriguez to develop funding priorities and evaluation criteria, she insisted that our grants should support the most promising research regardless of commercial potential, focusing purely on patient benefit and scientific merit. Elena appreciated the Foundation's approach to research funding that prioritized medical advancement over commercial consideration. Recognizing that her grandmother had used philanthropic activities to pursue breakthrough treatments that might not generate immediate profit but could transform outcomes for vulnerable patient populations, the integration of business success with charitable giving demonstrated a comprehensive commitment to advancing pediatric medicine through multiple complementary strategies. The potential collaboration opportunities with Blackwood Pharmaceutical had evolved into serious discussions, strategic partnerships that could leverage the combined resources and expertise of both organizations to accelerate research programs and expand treatment options for pediatric patients with complex medical needs. Robert Blackwood's genuine interest in advancing pediatric medicine had created foundation for collaborative relationship that transcended family dynamics to focus on shared medical and business objectives. Marcus's research in pediatric cardiology provided natural alignment with Elena's inherited company's focus on innovative treatments for children with serious medical conditions. The possibility of combining his clinical expertise with her pharmaceutical resources created opportunities for developing breakthrough treatments that could address unmet medical needs while advancing both organizations' research missions and commercial objectives. The cardiac medication delivery systems your Mexico facility is developing could revolutionize treatment approaches for children with congenital heart defects, Marcus observed during one of their planning sessions. If we could adapt those technologies for the surgical procedures I'm developing, we might be able to improve outcomes while reducing recovery times and treatment complications. The prospect of meaningful collaboration between Elena's pharmaceutical resources and Marcus's medical research represented the type of innovative partnership that could generate both significant medical advancement and substantial commercial success while serving pediatric patients who desperately needed improved treatment options. The personal and professional alignment created unique opportunities for advancing pediatric medicine through integrated approaches that combined clinical expertise with pharmaceutical. And Elena's growing confidence in managing her pharmaceutical inheritance had been accompanied by fundamental changes in her relationship with the Blackwood family, particularly Miranda, whose behavior had undergone dramatic transformation since learning about Elena's actual background and capability. The systematic criticism and condescension that had characterized their previous interactions had been replaced by respectful acknowledgement of Elena's expertise and genuine interest in potential business collaboration. I've been reviewing the pediatric oncology research your foundation is funding, Miranda mentioned during a recent family dinner that had become significantly more pleasant and collaborative than the gatherings Elena had endured for 4 years. Blackwood Pharmaceuticals has been developing complementary research programs that could benefit from coordination with your foundation's initiative. The transformation in Miranda's attitude reflected not only recognition of Elena's financial resources but also growing appreciation for her medical expertise and commitment to advancing pediatric healthcare through innovative research and development programs. The combination of clinical experience and pharmaceutical resources had created a professional profile that commanded respect within the industry and opened opportunities for meaningful collaboration. Elena's decision-making approach to managing her inheritance had been guided by the same systematic analysis and patient-centered priorities that had characterized her nursing career, ensuring that business decisions aligned with medical advancement, objectives, and ethical considerations about healthcare accessibility and social responsibility. The integration of commercial success with meaningful medical impact reflected values that honored her grandmother's legacy while building upon Elena's own professional experience and personal conviction. The financial impact of Elena's inheritance had extended beyond personal wealth accumulation to create opportunities for expanding healthcare access and research funding that could benefit thousands of patients worldwide. The $90 million valuation represented not merely individual financial security, but resources that could transform pediatric medicine through sustained investment in research programs, facility improvements, and collaborative partnerships with leading medical institutions. Elena's charitable giving strategy had expanded beyond the Rodriguez Foundation's existing programs to include direct support for pediatric nursing education, family support services for children with chronic illness, and community health programs that addressed healthcare disparities affecting vulnerable populations. The comprehensive approach to philanthropy reflected her understanding that improving children's health outcomes required addressing multiple factors, including healthcare access, family support, and professional education. The nursing scholarship program that Elena established in her grandmother's memory provided funding for students pursuing pediatric nursing specialization, ensuring that future generations of healthcare professionals would have the resources and training necessary to provide excellent care for children with complex medical needs. The program emphasized both clinical competence and compassionate patient care that reflected the values Elena had developed through her own nursing education and professional experience. Your grandmother would be proud of how you're using her business success to advance the medical care and research she valued throughout her career, Carmen observed during one of their regular strategy meetings. The integration of pharmaceutical development with educational support and patient care programs creates comprehensive impact that extends far beyond what any single organization could achieve independently. Business success and social responsibility could be integrated in ways that generated both commercial returns and meaningful medical advancement while serving vulnerable patient populations who depended on innovative treatments and accessible healthcare services. The model provided framework for other pharmaceutical leaders who sought to balance profit generation with genuine commitment to improving patient outcomes and advancing medical science. The recognition Elena had received within the pharmaceutical industry for her innovative leadership approach and commitment to pediatric medicine had created opportunities for speaking engagements, industry advisory positions, and collaborative research initiatives that extended her influence beyond her inherited companies to encompass broader advocacy for patient-centered pharmaceutical development and healthcare policy reform. Her presentation at the International Pediatric Pharmacy Symposium had highlighted the potential for pharmaceutical companies to prioritize patient needs while maintaining commercial viability through strategic research investments and collaborative partnerships with healthcare providers and academic medical centers. The positive reception of her ideas had generated invitations for additional speaking opportunities and consulting relationships that could amplify her impact on industry practices and policy development. Your perspective as both a practicing nurse and pharmaceutical executive provides unique insights that our industry desperately needs, commented Dr. Sarah Chen, president of the Global Pediatric Medicine Association, following Elena's symposium presentation. The combination of clinical experience and business leadership creates opportunities for innovation that purely financial or purely medical perspectives often miss. The professional recognition Elena had achieved within the pharmaceutical industry validated her approach to leadership that emphasized patient care priorities while maintaining sophisticated understanding of business operations and strategic planning requirements. The success demonstrated that clinical expertise could enhance rather than conflict with commercial effectiveness when applied through appropriate frameworks and collaborative partnerships. Elena's relationship with Marcus had strengthened through their shared commitment to advancing pediatric medicine and their collaborative approach to balancing professional responsibilities with personal values and family relationships. The revelation of Elena's inheritance had enhanced rather than complicated their marriage by creating opportunities for meaningful collaboration that aligned with both of their career objectives and personal convictions about healthcare, service, and social responsibility. The joint research initiatives they had developed combined Marcus's clinical expertise in pediatric cardiology with Elena's pharmaceutical resources and foundation funding to pursue breakthrough treatments that could transform outcomes for children with congenital heart defects and other cardiovascular conditions. The integrated approach demonstrated how medical and pharmaceutical expertise could be combined to accelerate innovation while ensuring that research priorities remained focused on patient benefit rather than purely commercial consideration. As Elena reflected on the extraordinary transformation her life had undergone since Harrison Fletcher's unexpected visit to the Blackwood estate, she recognized that her grandmother's hidden pharmaceutical empire had provided not merely financial resources but a platform for advancing the pediatric healthcare objectives that had motivated her nursing career and personal values. The inheritance represented both opportunity and responsibility for stewardship of resources that could impact thousands of children and families worldwide. The challenge of honoring Esperanza Rodriguez's legacy while building upon Elena's own nursing expertise and personal convictions required developing new capabilities and knowledge areas while maintaining the compassion and dedication to patient welfare that had shaped her professional identity. The intersection of business success and medical advancement had created possibilities for comprehensive impact that exceeded what either clinical practice or pharmaceutical development could achieve independently. The evening that had begun with Miranda's cruel accusations about Elena's worthlessness had ultimately revealed opportunities for advancing pediatric medicine and improving children's health outcomes through innovative research, strategic partnerships, and comprehensive approaches to pharmaceutical development that prioritized patient needs while maintaining commercial viability and social responsibility. Elena's transformation from target of family criticism to leader of pharmaceutical innovation demonstrated how assumptions about worth and capability could be fundamentally incorrect, while highlighting the potential for individuals to contribute meaningfully to medical advancement and social welfare through appropriate application of resources, expertise, and collaborative relationships that serve vulnerable populations and advance scientific knowledge. The legacy of Esperanza Rodriguez's pharmaceutical empire would continue through Elena's leadership approach that integrated business success with medical advancement while maintaining patient-centered values and ethical principles that had guided both women's commitment to improving children's health outcomes and advancing pediatric medicine through innovation, collaboration, and sustained dedication to serving vulnerable populations worldwide. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up, just click and check them out.